Yeah, but there are good and there are bad. So there's some very, very good teachers on YouTube. You've got to look at it from the point of view. I mean, if I wanted to learn Chinese, for example, would I use YouTube? That is the question. What do you think? I mean, if you wanted to learn another language, would you use YouTube?
So yeah, I would select the channel that's in English, teaching the foreign language, so that it's teaching me in my first language.
So you're a
And
believer in that way of teaching and using the native language as a
I think as a learner, that's the first place I would go.
yeah.
And so I would learn, alphabet or some basic stuff like that. So I've tried that a couple times with like Arabic,
Oh,
Chinese,
really? How did you get on
but
with Arabic? Because that's
but
supposed to be like the most difficult language.
really, I think.
Yeah, there's like a scale somewhere of language difficulty, and Arabic is at the top. I think it's even harder than Chinese, supposedly.
Well, I think Japanese is a lot harder. I
Yeah.
think Japanese is somewhere at the top, but Arabic, I mean, I didn't go deep enough. I learned some basics and then moved on to the next thing and, got busy and I didn't pursue it and didn't have any application for it, right? So it was just an interest and so but anyways, as just like a surface level learner like that, then YouTube was a resource that I used to
But
learn.
how do you know that the person that is teaching you is pronouncing the words correctly, is teaching you
Don't.
correctly, knows what they're talking about, basically?
You don't. You just go from signs of,
Yeah.
symbols of authority that you see on their channel and other stuff
For
like that.
example, like certificates or things like that, or
Just if it right, it's something about making it look like it looks legitimate,
professional.
right? And
Yeah.
so I think number of subscribers plays into that for the learner too.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe the best advice would be to not just use one particular source, maybe
Yeah.
use a variety of sources, and then you might find the ones that are saying something different or pronouncing a word differently from the rest. That would be an indication that it wasn't legit, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I know that you've studied a lot of languages. Right now you're on Turkish.
Hmm.
Actually, are you studying on a website or a platform or somewhere? Or is it just
YouTube, mostly YouTube. I study mostly on my own, and then I try to meet natives and ones that will correct me. And
Mhm.
then that's kind of the way that I learn.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I have somebody to introduce you to after this.
Nice.
But the languages that you've studied before, they're all Romance languages, right?
Yes, exactly.
Take us through them. Maybe there was some commonality in learning them that you can share with us that's going to be
Yeah.
maybe a helpful tip.
Yes. Yeah. So Spanish was the first one I learned. I went to Mexico and we did it in a formal way with the teacher and
Hmm,
took, I think, like 9 weeks of classes, 4 hours a day. And then we lived with a Spanish speaking family. So
that's awesome.
by the end of the few months, we were speaking broken Spanish. And then we moved over to Spain and lived there for 2 years. And really, I think that helped to get our Spanish in a good place.
Hmm.
And then when we were living in Hawaii, we were watching a lot of Netflix at night. We had two kids, and we're like, we're kind of wasting time. And we decided to learn a new language. And my husband chose Portuguese, and I chose Italian because I was like, this seems beautiful. And I studied it using Pimsleur and
Okay.
just finding all the resources I could. This was back in 2017. And
Hmm.
I studied it for 3 months and then I stopped for 9. I had another baby and I was like, it was too much. And then I went back to it when we decided to go to Italy and I studied pretty religiously for another year and a half. And so I got to a good level in Italian. Having Spanish already helped me to
Yeah.
learn Italian. Yeah. And then while traveling, because we would take these 8 month trips around the world with our kids, we'd be gone for 8 months. Just then, usually we'd burn out and go home. So during one of those trips, I decided to learn Portuguese and I decided to not study grammar. I was like, I already have Spanish and Italian. Can I learn this language without grammar? And so I pretty much just went into watching content and speaking to Brazilians. And I studied 1 year and I got to a really good level in Portuguese.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay, it's time for French, like the last big one of the Romance languages. And I struggled. I thought because I have 3 Romance languages, French will be easier because I knew kind of the process of language learning. Like it was easier in that sense, but I studied for 2 years and I would say it's still like the weakest of the 4. It's hard. French is just hard.
Oui, oui.
Est-ce que tu parles aussi le français? Pas du tout.
Nothing.
Okay. That's what I said. Nothing. Yeah.
No, I took French for 1 semester in college
Okay.
as like a requirement for part of the degree. But before that, I lived in Italy for 2 years.
Okay.
And so when I lived there, I spoke, but now I don't.
Okay. Hai dimenticato.
Like if I'm around some people speaking it and I'll get some words, I'll like remember some things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like the underlying structure of the language, like the linguistic form, this stayed with me. So
Cool. You can pick it back up.
Right. So like if I like in English teaching, then I would like start to recall things from Italian, and Italian root words, they would maybe be pronounced differently. Like, why does spaghetti have an H in it? And that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
yeah.
So those kinds of things. And then like I just went to Portugal and all those Italian pronunciation rules came back as I'm trying to navigate what's happening around me. And so they're saying, oh, this is pronounced like this before E, before I. I'm like, oh, I know this rule.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah. I think the most similar are Portuguese and Spanish, in my opinion. Yeah, but Italian has some like crossover too with certain words and grammatical structure as well.
It's so cool how they're all connected. And while you were talking about this, I just thought of how like a lot of teachers don't think about the difference between English as a second language and English as a third or fourth or fifth language. And you've actually got that experience. Like I had Italian as my first real second language that I spoke, but I never reached adult fluency,
Okay. Yeah.
So it was easy to lose. Russian, I'm like, I know what's happening there. So
nice.
I can do that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So like learning it, for example, learning Russian as a third spoken language, then that second language foundation helped so much.
Yeah, totally. For me, I think I was thrown off again learning Turkish because there's I hadn't learned anything like this crazy language. And so I realized like it just takes so much more time. And so now I'm like, wow, like languages that are so far from English just take a lot more time. And everyone wants to learn fast. What is the fastest way I can learn English? And I'm like, sometimes like that isn't possible, especially if I was in Turkey, which I went there for 3 months last year. I think you have that advantage because you're always around it. The signs are in Turkish. The people around you are Turkish. So you have that opportunity. But if you're learning it like I am now here, I have met some Turks, which is awesome. But for the most part, there are no Turkish people here, so the process is just slower finding people online. And I've just realized, okay, this is slower. It's taking my brain. My brain wants to reject it because it's so different from all the languages I know that it can't make sense of it. Probably like Russian,
Yeah. And it's cool to then turn the tables and say, how do I, like my students, what are they going through? Because I have students who are from Peru, Mexico, Venezuela, wherever. And they're learning. And there's a lot of similarities. There's some things that they just get automatically, whereas the Japanese student, the Thai student, the Vietnamese student, they're still like, what are you even talking about? Because it's a completely different language family. And then you go even to like it's not even in the Proto-European group of languages. So like Russian would actually be easier for you probably than Turkish.
Wow. That's an
Because
interesting
it's
thought.
still like those Greek roots are
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I see the same mistakes with my Turkish friends. You know, they always forget the article like a or the before the nouns because they don't have one. They
right.
don't say it. So I'm like, that's why you guys forget it, you know? So, yeah, or like they'll forget to say to before the food before the verb, you know, they'll forget
Right.
to. I like to read because they don't say it in that way. So now I'm like,
Right.
oh, and then now I see why I'm making the mistake in Turkish too. So it's cool. It's
Yeah,
like nice to
exactly.
realize that. Yeah.
And you see, that's that's a good teacher.
Hmm. Thank you.
That's a good teacher. Like a good teacher is supposed to be learning that stuff themselves, experiencing
Yeah.
that stuff themselves, and then taking that real experience and then sharing that back with them. And the person who is resisting learning any other foreign language at all, who's just stuck
Hmm.
in like, this is
Hmm. Hmm.
my
Yeah.
English, these are the rules, get away.
Yeah.
Uh, then they can't really get in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
true.
really cool that you're able to make those insights.
Thank you. Yeah. Language learning is just so enriching. Like, I know not that many Americans learn, you know, another language, let alone five other ones, but I think it's so enriching. Like, I actually, the other day, yesterday, I told my husband, like, do you think I'm like wasting my time? Because I'm spending so much time studying Turkish, like a lot of time. And it's just because I enjoy it. You know, I don't really have like greater purpose in language learning, just for joy, for opening myself up to new cultures, learning new things, meeting new people. He's like, "Have you ever regretted like learning other languages?" And I'm like, "No, you're right. I haven't." Yeah.
No, it's personal development, you know, it's
Hmm.
personal growth.
Yeah.
It's another skill that you get to turn up to a new level.
Hmm.
Some people
Hmm.
don't have, and then it
Yeah.
comes in handy sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I love it, that it's like a true passion and joy of mine. Because if I wouldn't learn it if I didn't love it, I
Right?
don't
This is
think.
huge, especially for our students too, to create
Yeah.
motivation for them. Like I
Yes.
forget when it was, like 10 years ago a teacher who can motivate the student is better than the teacher who can teach the student the content.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
like if you know all the grammar rules, all the pronunciation rules, if you know all of those rules, you're not as good of a teacher as that guy who can just make them smile,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
make them like it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. If you can fall in love with the language you're learning, I think you're gonna be shocked. You're gonna be like, wow, like you're gonna go so much farther with that language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Applying it to your real life and liking that process. But I think
Hmm.
maybe we've tapped into something here why a lot of Americans maybe don't like learning languages because feel like um, if your parents are like kind of against this idea, like
Mm.
that's something I don't understand, so I don't really want that around me, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So if your parents shut down that idea when you're young, then you're at a huge disadvantage.
Yeah. That's true. That's
My
true.
house, we had little handbooks of like Italian and like Serbo-Croatian and Romanian, and I would just go and look at it like, ah.
That's cool. I come from a Finnish background, Finnish Swedish, so my great great grandparents. And unfortunately, my grandpa, who spoke fluently in Finnish, he never taught my dad. And so it wasn't passed down to us because back then it wasn't like cool coming in as an immigrant and not speaking English. So I think a lot
Yeah,
of families lost that tradition of speaking the languages they came in with to their children. And so then I'm like, oh, Finnish is one of the hardest languages out there, Dad. Imagine if you taught me, you know?
People have different learning styles. So the most important thing is for an individual to know their personal learning style. For example, I am a classroom learner. I enjoy being in a classroom, a physical classroom with a teacher who I can bounce ideas off of, ask questions and get answers in the moment. I like that kind of learning style. I can learn on my own to a point, but I do enjoy the interaction with a teacher. However, I have another friend, his learning style is he doesn't need a classroom. He just needs people around him that are actually the people. He learned Korean faster than I did. He just started interacting with people, never paid for a class, just started interacting with Koreans. So you first have to know your learning style. What is your specific learning style? Because even if you learn from other people, they actually are your teachers. They don't have the title of teacher, but you're learning from them, right? Just in a different way. So to answer the second part of your question, teachers are indispensable. It's just they might not be in the classroom. It might be a teacher from a YouTube video. It might be a teacher in the form of your friend who you met during a language exchange, right? That person still is operating as your teacher because you need someone to guide you along your pathway. It might not be a step-by-step process where it's day one, do this, day two, do this, but you are analyzing what that individual is saying, how they're reacting in certain situations, their body language. They are acting as your teacher. So teachers are definitely indispensable. And second, again, students have to know their learning style.
What do you think? What are some of the cultural elements of speaking a language that people might miss?
There's definitely a lot of things that are like that. For example, levels of politeness. I remember when I was in England, I had a customer who was an older woman from the Czech Republic, and she would always call me Mr. Matt. It sounded a bit strange to me. I didn't really understand why she called me that. But then I understood that that's what they do in the Czech Republic. They use your first name with the title. So a few things like that. And back to sort of levels of politeness, I think in a lot of languages, they have a bigger distinction between formal and informal. So I think that in the past, British and American English probably used to have a lot more usage of formal language when you're talking to someone older than you, someone that you don't know.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But of course, we don't do that anymore. And I have had some students who have told me things, I should say it like this, shouldn't I? And I think, oh, you must have been reading a grammar book from the 1930s or something like that.
Yeah. One that always comes up for me that makes me feel weird is when students just call me teacher. Mm-hmm. Teacher, excuse me, teacher. Mm-hmm. Hey, teacher, I have a question. And I'm always like, just call me Chris. Just call me Chris. They're like, oh, but I'm being respectful because you're my teacher. And I'm like, but don't call me teacher or Mr. Teacher or something. Call me Chris.
Yeah.